again, just to review the portfolio here. So we have VirtualBox, VDI, XVM Server, and Ops Center. And for those of you that have been following this for a while, you'll probably remember that the first time we really talked about XVM publicly was actually Oracle Open World November last year, so less than a year ago. And obviously Sun had a lot of virtualization technology in its portfolio, but we really didn't have an umbrella under which to put it under, and we didn't have it all put together. We didn't have a way for customers to easily relate to it and easily sort of digest it and bring it into their ecosystems. And so we set out to build XVM. And we took some pieces that we had as well as building some entirely new pieces. Sort of the order in which this rolled out, beginning of this calendar year, we started rolling out products that were under the XVM banner. The first one we actually rolled out somewhat counterintuitively was Ops Center. This is something that we had in the works for a while. There was an acquisition that we did in 2006, a small company in Israel called Aduva, which provided some of the foundational technology for this, and we've been working on this ever since. And so I think February this year, we shipped XVM Ops Center as the first product in the portfolio. And at that point, 1.0 was really a physical server management tool. It was a data center management tool with a really heavy emphasis on software lifecycle management and compliance. And we've gotten a lot of customer acceptance around that. Our friends at CSC have started to work with it both in their own shop and working with customers, right? Now, the next thing that we actually brought out was VirtualBox. And for those of you who followed this, VirtualBox was actually the result of another acquisition, this one more recent. We actually, I think it was April or May this year. Anybody remember the date? 26th. February? Not long ago. For those of you who can't tell, this year's been a whole blur. But we bought this little company called Innotech in Germany, and these guys are virtualization rock stars. And if any of you are going to be at VMworld next week, I'll introduce you to Achim Hassenmüller, which I think I said approximately correct. These guys started off on like the OS2 kernel team, and they wrote the ability for OS2 to do Windows applications, and then they went on and they did the, this is going to sound funny, they did the Windows port of Virtual PC. For those of you who had Macs a long time ago and wanted to run Windows software on it, well, the Connectix guys had this brilliant idea, what if you could run Windows software on Windows? At which point Microsoft bought them up just like that. These guys went off and decided, okay, I've written 2 hypervisors, I now know how to do it. I'm going to do it right. And they wrote VirtualBox from scratch, all in open source. And what you see is the demonstrations we gave today, the massive downloads. It's super fast, it's super cool, it's so easy. And this is, as bizarre as it sounds, this is a hypervisor that your mom can install. And in fact, my dad has, and he uses it all the time. And he calls me up and asks me tech support about it. The other piece that we shipped a little more recently was what we call VDI 2.0. And Sun's had virtual desktops for a long time. Everybody at Sun has one of these. We have 30,000 of them deployed at the corporation. And we've been doing it for a while, but historically, one of the things that limited the adoption of it was bound to Sun's operating system. You could only get a Solaris desktop. And frankly, the Solaris desktop's getting to be really good, but it limits you to places like call centers and other places where you don't need, for example, a specific set of Windows applications. And what we've done is, over time, accumulated the ability to run Windows, where with VDI 2, which is now becoming XVM VDI, we have the ability to run any OS, almost as if it were, well, actually natively, virtualized on the server and get really good performance for that, and do it, broadcast that out to your laptop, broadcast it out to the Sunray. So this idea that you get any OS to any device, all of a sudden this really is open to Sun. And then obviously today the thing that we focused on a lot was XVM Server. There's a lot of new stuff here. Sun's been doing work for a couple of years with the Zen community, and we've been integrating Zen into Solaris. Which is cool. That's kind of, in some ways, analogous to what Red Hat has done, is they've integrated Zen, and well, now I think they'll do KVM, into their operating system, assuming that their OS customers want to virtualize. And Open Solaris now has some virtualization capabilities built in going forward on x86, which is cool. But what we did was take some of that work and really package it into a dedicated appliance where the customer doesn't have to know anything about Solaris, even though we're using some Solaris technologies inside. And what you saw today, that web-based user interface, is everything that you need to manage the system. You never have to drop down to a command line. Everything from, after you install it, setting your time zone and the clocks and everything else, it's completely appliantized. It's like operating a high-tech toaster. There's no point at which you have to interact with it down at that command line layer, and you just log into it over the browser. So a lot of these slides are going to get redundant here because I've just said everything in them, but I'll just hit a couple of high points here. We did talk about when the representative from Microsoft came up during the webcast. We briefly talked about SVVP. This is Microsoft's program for certifying hypervisors. We will shortly be announcing we're certified there as well, which will give people the ability to call Microsoft and ask for tech support running inside of our hypervisor. We think this is really key, and we've got that bilateral arrangement with them now where they will shortly also be announcing that they have certified Solaris to run inside their hypervisor. Ops Center, I think you guys got a good picture of that. I think some of the things I didn't go into a lot, and you can ask some more questions about these. We will have, there's another part where we're going to go over and get some more demos, right? You can ask about some of this stuff. The ability to do patching, manage the firmware, all of those things that are generic to, not just virtual servers, giving you that one pane of glass to manage more and more stuff. And in fact, for any of you who will be at VMworld next week, I encourage you to stop by the booth, and we're going to have an even better Ops Center demo because they showed me the stuff last night, which they didn't have time to put in. And all sorts of stuff. It's amazing how motivated people get before a trade show.